What happened is that around early morning, I was feeling like in a tunnel, which would feel like a dream. But then I realized it was not a dream. It was very real that I was in that tunnel with all of these people. And what would happen is that we were all in that van, that Westphalia type of van. So as we're going into the tunnel, pretty dark, I had a feeling I know where we are because I'm the type that used to make some researches because about death and all of that. But, I never thought that I would find myself in that tunnel, which were like, okay, only if you die, you can get in that tunnel. But I was in it with all these people going further and further and deeper, which were like, okay, only if you die, you can get in that tunnel. But I was in it with all these people going further and further and deeper. And at the end, there's this, exit and that kind of brightness and light. All these people that say they died, I guess they were right. And I would say to myself, could I be dead? That's when I was going deeper to that end of the tunnel. And the most unusual thing happened. I heard my mom's voice. And my mom, which lives in Florida, she said, oh no, we are dead. And at the moment my mom said that, my body that was laying on the bed sleeping just shut down. I mean, completely shut down. And that's when I stood and I just looked around. It was so interesting and so vivid and so real that I'm out of body and I'm standing in front of my closet. But when I looked to check on my body, I felt like I didn't want to see it. And then I turned and I kept on looking in my closet. That's when I realized, wow, look at all these things I have. Look at all these clothes, this jewelry. And I felt this deep sadness because none of that could take me back to life. None of that were necessary and useful. And I felt like, wow, that's pretty intense. That material stuff, bring nothing more than material peace, but the spiritual peace is not in material stuff. So I just went out the bedroom, turned to the right to the living room. That's where I had my library. What I saw was my books there on my shelves. And I picked up one. I mean, wonder how I did that. And I felt some deep sadness that I lost all that knowledge, all this knowledge and all these books that I didn't have the time to open them to read at least one page. So I really felt very sad. And that just like, wow, that's pretty interesting that I was feeling that sadness regarding the books, but regarding the other stuff I had, it was none of that. But I wasn't scared. I felt happy, but I was very doubtful. And in an instant, I saw myself where there was this big stage where, bands would perform, and then I could see Earth from afar. And the voice that I heard behind my back said, you need to bow down to say your goodbyes to Earth. And I was like, bow down to say my goodbyes? What do you mean? And the voice says, the Earth is nothing but a play. You were an actor. As the voice was telling me to bow down, there were these curtains that started to pull together to close like when a show ends. I said, so I won't have any contacts with Earth, none of that, no news, no good news, no bad news. So all these things that I experienced, so what's it all about? Says the Earth was just a play. And then the curtain closed and the voices bowed down. So I just, bowed down like a comedian on the stage. And at the same instant, we were like traveling. But the travel in that realm is not something that people would think as you would fly. You just feel you're there because it's so vast and magnificent that it's a state of being. So I was there in the realm of death where I would feel this intense love, this joy, this pure energy, I didn't see nobody actually, but I felt I was there. So as we were there, I would get some notions of life and all that there is about some principles of life, about, the human conditions and nature, about some hate, some love. But that was so unusual because what happened is that I had this worry, even though I was in this realm where I was floating or navigating or, I don't know, bathing, and it felt as if I was like huge and I could hold everything in my hand, the universe, the earth, everything was so powerful. And I didn't have any fear, I didn't have any worries, but I could sense that I was having something that was holding me back. But yet I still was feeling like, well, you know what? If I'm dead, definitely my people, they're gonna be worried too. And I'm sure that I could come to tell them that I'm okay. And it's like, I felt like I could play with death even. So I was like, wow, maybe I can come back to spook him out or something like that, because there was no scare, there was nothing to worry about. And I felt that state. And I even say, well, I could even go to my funeral and let him know that I'm okay by some sign, like, that I know I'm not dead and I'm there, just they cannot see me. And I would feel all this emotion that what would happen if ever they they discover my body in that room, on that bed, laying there, lifeless. And specifically, I was thinking about my fiance, but I didn't really worry because I knew I was in good hands and I felt the intense love, and my senses, we were like in that good energy type of realm. So it was so magnificent that it's even undescribable, because you once have to see it to know it or experience it. In that realm, everything happens in a snap. And I saw myself in that big type of valley as I was going, walking, seeing, checking things out. Like, it's a nice area, very beautiful, calm and quiet. And it feels like I hear this music coming from somewhere. And then I kept on walking and walking. And as I approached a little closer to hear the noise, the voice, the music, that's where I realized this magnificent gate. It was so huge and beautiful. I was standing in awe. I was like, wow, this is interesting to just look at, because I never seen anything like it. It was so huge and gigantic, and it reached the heavens, and I could not even see the top, so much it was big. I would have to probably lay on the floor, on the ground to look. And as I was standing there admiring the scenery, the gate, the ornaments, the way it works, and the music were playing so mellow and so relaxing and calm, and I felt like I had this deep worry. But then why am I worried? Okay, then everything was fine for a moment. That's when I realized, well, if ever somebody come out of this gate, I'm gonna have to ask all the life questions about all the stuff that the world has gone through, and then what are the truth behind them, because life is not about survival, it's about truth. So that's when I stood in front of the gate waiting to be greeted by any who, but mostly since my interaction